Embers of the Uncrowned is an upcoming dark fantasy top-down isometric action MMORPG developed and published by Nexon. It just launched into a demo test phase where thousands of people all around the world got in, tested it out, and what I wanted to do was just kind of sit down. I didn't dive too deeply into it, several hours, and just talk through what I experienced. This is not a comprehensive deep dive review. I don't think it would be possible to really deep dive too thoroughly into it, given this is just a test phase. There is a very finite amount of content present within it. I mean, let's be real. There are only 3 classes right now, and all 3 classes were gender locked. This deterred a lot of people. We had, I think, at max 500 people watching concurrently across both YouTube and Twitch, and the vast majority immediately upon seeing the gender-locked classes said nope, and they just peased right out. Yo, before we go ahead here and jump into the video though, the legendary Rising Force is back, completely rebuilt on Unreal Engine 5. This is a cross-platform sci-fi MMORPG with PC and mobile crossplay functionality. It is completely free to play. There are 3 different factions, 1 planet, and total war. Welcome to Novus. Bellado mech pilots, core magic warriors, Acretia cybernetic soldiers. This is a level of sci-fi and sorcery colliding like never before. Veterans, the mining war returns. Mining wars are held once a week, up to 450 players in one insane battle. The winner takes the mines and the power. What's new for everyone? Biosuits. 8 different loadouts, tank, melee, range, so you can switch mid-fight. There are over 100 total unique mechs. There is free flight combat, giant summons that flip up the battlefield, and yes, the best gear is earnable. That's right, RF Online Next is here. The war you loved, just bigger, smoother, and on every device. Pre-register right now. Once again, the mines are calling. I'm under the impression here that each class will be ungender locked at some point. This is a Nexon game, so it does carry with it a degree of, well, I don't want to say a lack of polish, but there are certain expectations for Nexon games. Now, you're probably looking at the game and you're thinking, wow, this looks a lot like Lost Ark, and it is. I don't think it has the depth of Lost Ark. I don't think it has the mechanical complexity of Lost Ark. For any of you that have been watching this channel for any length of time, you'll know that both Mr. Six and I played a lot of Lost Ark. We played hundreds of hours of the Korean and Russian versions, and then hundreds of hours of the global versions. Lost Ark was and still remains a very good MMO. Disregarding any pay to win, disregarding content cadence, the core game of Lost Ark is fantastic. Easily and unarguably the best top-down isometric perspective MMO available. Now, I want to give Embers of the Uncrowned a little bit of leeway here because this is just a demo, and I think it'd be disingenuous to just come out and say, based off of like 5 to 10 hours of playing a demo, which isn't a beta, which isn't a full release version, the game sucks. You know, that's disingenuous, and I think that's unfair to do. But praising a game when there were so many aspects of it that were just lacking, I think is also unnecessary and disingenuous. In its current state, I think the game is okay. I don't like the gender-locked classes. I love the character creator. This is a Korean MMO, so naturally the character creator is going to be impeccable. There are a lot of options. You can create arguably some of the most impressive looking characters in an MMO right now, I guess bar Black Desert. The character models overall, even in game, look insane. The focus on the chick with the big booty, like they just throw that in your face repeatedly. Every opportunity they get, you get a big booba, big booty waifu thrown in your face. So if you're into Gunner games, then this is definitely going to appeal to you. I myself like Gunner games. I think the majority of us do. That's why we played Black Desert. That's why we played Terra. That's why we played Blade and Soul. The combat, I think, is vastly inferior to Lost Ark. I mean, I'd go as far here as to say that this is kind of like a Lost Ark light. The combat animations are pretty good, but the feel of it, the flow, is just largely clunky. It didn't feel fluid. It didn't feel smooth. It didn't really feel like it had impact. And the worst part is your animation locked. So I played the mage, and that was probably the worst mage I'd ever played. You were stuck in place for certain abilities where you had to cast them. If you moved too quickly, the cast would stop and the skill would go on cooldown. You didn't really deal damage that was comparable to the dual sword class. Like, I feel like it took me 3 to 4 times as long as a dual sword class to actually kill things. A lot of people I was actually talking to mentioned that the mage seemed very much unlike a mage and instead felt like a magical melee class where you would run in to close proximity to the enemy and then you'd cast your abilities because they literally have like a 5 to 10 foot range. This meant that most fights I couldn't kite, most fights I couldn't get distance from the enemy where I could actually tactically kite them and avoid abilities. Instead, I was forced to constantly run within their range where they'd take a step forward into me while I'm casting and then just get hit and in some instances die. There are plenty of abilities, there are plenty of talents for you to unlock. There is a quite extensive talent tree, especially for MMOs. When in combat, the camera actually felt really wonky. So as a mage, I'm forced to aim where my abilities go using my cursor. I'm also required to rotate the camera with my cursor, which means that if I'm trying to cast, but I'm also trying to rotate my camera, my ability goes God knows where. The camera angles were just bad. The camera rotation was just bad. The fights themselves, though, some of them were actually very challenging. The boss fight was very cool. I also like the fact that you get free cosmetics just for running the dungeons. The cinematics are very gory and also very cool. There's a housing feature in it. I'm never going to play that. I'm never going to use that. It kind of like it's kind of like a mini town or settlement where you're forced to grind materials and then upgrade your base of operations. And then, I don't know, there are like lots of NPCs in there that give you various different benefits. I hate micromanagement of towns. I hate micromanagement of houses or guilds or anything like that. I just want to play an MMO. I want to get in there. I want to run through dungeons, run through raids, PvP. I think the main concern here was that the game largely looked mobile. Based off of what I played, like I even saw other content creators that were stating this. The game kind of feels like a mobile game that was a mobile game and then got ported to PC, and that PC was kind of an afterthought, and all the mechanics that were present in it as a mobile game remained. You have all the annoying red dots that are present in mobile MMOs. You have all the irritating features and mechanics that are present in MMOs. I didn't see any auto combat or any auto pathing though, but those are easy to remove. I think in terms of complexity, it felt about as complex as a mobile MMO. Even graphically, when you get in game, it kind of feels like a mobile MMO. Now, that isn't to say it's going to be as predatory or as shallow as a mobile MMO, but just so much of what so many of us experienced led us to believe that it was definitely an MMO in its conception, that they decided to pivot towards a PC MMO, maybe to maximize revenue. Maybe they're planning on having crossplay functionality in the future as well. I don't know. But ultimately, after playing several hours of the game, I'd say this game is okay. It's not great. It has the potential to be a lot better. I think if they focus on the PC elements rather than making it a mobile MMO when it doesn't have mobile functionality, I think the combat needs a lot more time to polish, to improve. I think they need to implement more mechanics for bosses. I get they're trying to go like the Diablo or Path of Exile route. That's awesome. A lot of depth for individual class identity is great. I love the fact that you get tons of free cosmetics just by playing the game. I dislike the fact that pretty much the entire game is solo. Every time you went to a story mission, you're forced into it alone. Anyone in your party is forced into their own respective instance. The only multiplayer areas are the open world, the dungeons and raids, and the towns. But a lot of the game actually takes place in the story. You essentially run from hub A to hub B. Hub A is instance. You run through a non-instanced area that connects to Hub B, where you kill some monsters if you want to, and then you get to Hub B, which is also instance. That's kind of the game. The story is very cool. It is very dark, very gory, very bloody, and very cool, but ultimately it just kind of felt like I was auto-pathing from area to area without auto-pathing, not really engaging or interacting with anyone, and then just doing the story. And that I don't know, it didn't really, it kind of disconnected me from the MMO feel. It didn't really feel very massively multiplayer to me. Maybe they'll improve. Maybe things will get more massively multiplayer as the game goes on. But right now, this does not feel like a game that I would enjoy. I hope it improves to a point where I do, but I don't have any incentive to play beyond this. If it weren't for me having a YouTube channel that covered video games and MMOs, I don't think I'd ever return to it. I'm curious to see how it improves, but at the end of the day, can it improve enough and implement enough features to warrant enough players continuing to play? Will it retain player retention long term? I don't know. Based off of the perception thus far, based off of all the people claiming it's a kind of a crappy mobile game dressed up like a PC game, I wouldn't think so. But again, this is a demo and there is a lot of room for improvement, and they definitely can. I know you think that you just hit the end of the video, and technically, yeah, you have. And I know your first reaction is to close out of it at this juncture, but don't. No, instead, I urge you to take a moment here and click one of the videos on screen that are coming up in just a moment, so you remain up to date with everything going on in the gacha genre. Trust me, you're not going to regret doing so. Stay flaccid.